Stephen, in most of our conversations we've had, we've always touched on how there's a volatility when it comes to crypto. And I know you said that this chatbot has that library of information, but are you afraid in the trading sense? Is there some sort of human element that could be lost here in an AI implementation?
You're right, Brittany. There's a lot also for investors to be cautious about when it comes to using products like this. For one, hallucinations, and within the context of generative AI, hallucinations basically mean an instance where the chatbot essentially creates facts and purports them to be true, and just because of the way that text is displayed, it can be very convincing. This can be problematic in a number of circumstances. ChatGPT falsely claimed that a George Washington University law professor was accused of sexual harassment and even invented a Washington Post article in its response as sort of a citation or credibility for that claim. All of that turned out to be false. Within the context of trading, I mean, what people really need to be careful about is making decisions based on the certainty provided by a tool such as Satoshi, which could be wrong, and unless you are a seasoned veteran trader within crypto markets, you may not realize that's a big concern. In addition, I think it's also important to understand that there's a lot more that goes into being a profitable crypto trader than just being able to trade on news and being able to put together algorithmic strategies and sometimes even if you do the implement and create and implement the best trading strategies, you still could turn out on a losing end. I mean, for instance, we've spoken numerous times about all of the different levels of leverage and sort of incestuousness between major trading desks and lending firms in crypto, and how when Three Arrows Capital fell in May, it sort of like led to this like series of dominoes where so many other firms ended up crashing as a result because they were all borrowing and indebted to each other. That's nothing that, like for instance, ChatGPT or Satoshi would be able to find out. I mean, I guess theoretically, if they could go and find that information, but all those companies were private, and their balance sheets, their bank records were private. I mean, that's not something that a tool like ChatGPT or again Satoshi would be able to save you from. And something else I think that's important too is, especially for tokens that are just launching early stage products, a lot of the money can be made from like VC firms and other people to get early access to these different tokens and then sell them onto the open market. And again, this is something that like Chat GPT, or excuse me, Satoshi might be able to level the playing field once everything is out in the open. But in this industry, still a lot of what matters is knowing the right people and getting early access to tokens at the right times. Satoshi might be able to help avoid buying into a speculative bubble by showing by responding to queries about previous surging tokens and giving potential traders warnings about what downturns could look like. But at the end of the day, the crypto market is still so, I guess, so jumbled that there are a lot of different potholes that people could step into if they don't know how to use this tool appropriately or understand or have a warning signal to figure out if they are being fed incorrect information.
I've had a lot of conversations with people throughout different industries, and they all say that ChatGPT and this AI is the way of the future. One person, Mark Penn, I was discussing with him the arms race between Microsoft and Google, and he said, this is the best invention since the smartphone. It's the invention of the decade. And it's interesting that AI is really getting into the crypto space. But as someone who's really in the weeds of the industry, knows more about crypto than anyone I've ever talked to, do you think this is a really good pairing?
I appreciate you saying that. So the pairing between AI and crypto, I think there are areas where they can be complementary, but the idea that they necessarily have to go hand in hand is false. I mean, think about it. The reason why OpenAI had to raise $10 billion from Microsoft is because of the gargantuan computing bills that it costs to run a project as sophisticated as ChatGPT. And blockchains are wonderful in a number of ways. They're in many ways they're trustless, they're censorship resistant, they're often secure, Um, they're append only. Hopefully they're immutable, but they're not necessarily fast, and they don't have a lot of excess data capacity. And those are two things that you really need for something like generative AI to work at scale. Chat GPT is great. Satoshi from the brief demo that I saw seemed great, but if you have to wait 12 hours to get a response to a query, that's not going to do you a lot of good, especially if you're in an industry like trading. So for crypto and AI to really merge together in a way that isn't cheating and uses both of these two technologies or industries in the ways that they're meant to, we're going to have to see significant steps forward in terms of scalability and throughput on the side of blockchains.
Obviously, we're in the early stages, but when can you see this really making strides?
It's hard to tell. I mean, we are in the very, very early stages of this, and it's not just, it's both industry. I mean, generative AI is something that is, although um, it's been on the radar for years, and its breakthrough moment just came, and I think it's hard to at this point it's very hard to overstate just how big the implications for this could be, from professions like journalism to law to marketing to you name it. And in crypto and blockchains, it's been around for 15 years, but it's still trying to find that aha moment in a lot of ways. When we're talking about scalability for blockchains, I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum only handle a handful of transactions a second. Ethereum just completed a major upgrade, which should be a major stepping stone to being able to handle about 100,000 transactions per second. There's other blockchains out there that are competitive with Ethereum, like Solana and Algorand and Cardano and Polkadot and Cosmos and you name it, that all can handle transaction throughput akin to what you might expect from a Visa or MasterCard. And now we're seeing this new type of technology. It's almost like layer two blockchains that sort of are complementary and sit on top of Ethereum. And they have these new types of approaches to rolling up data into more efficient packets called rollups. And we're seeing this new tech called ZK Snarks, essentially a fancy way of uh, compressing data again to make it more scalable. So, but a lot of these main nets are still waiting to launch. So I know this answer is probably a little bit herky jerky, but I think it also just speaks to how new this problem is. Or excuse, I think this speaks to how hard this problem is trying to solve. And at least when it comes to crypto, I think it also is a reflection of the fact that maybe blockchains aren't supposed to be that fast. I mean, one solution could be doing some of these major computations off chain and then anchoring them on chain from time to time. That's how, like, for instance, certain derivatives exchanges and decentralized exchanges on blockchain work. They do a lot of the heavy lifting off chain, and then from time to time post those transactions that, like, the net values of those transactions on chain. Maybe that's something that AI can do as well, but it's very hard to try to find a way for these two technologies to work together when they're both still funding themselves.
I think the response to AI has been everything from excited to apprehensive to, is this taking over the world? Is this taking over my job? What has the response been when it comes to AI and crypto?
Honestly, within crypto, I think there's been a few responses. For one, which I am ashamed to say, is that there's a certain degree of, I would say, like, charlatans or just opportunistic people looking to take advantage of the hype to sell tokens and make money. On the other hand, I mean, there is a significant majority of folks that are looking to figure out ways that are looking to figure out the implications of this for the industry, and now that AI has had this breakthrough moment, trying to determine where this can fit in within, like, the canon of blockchain development. And but at this point, I think that's kind of where we're at. I do think it's noteworthy, though, that there have been some people in crypto that have pushed back against efforts to sort of put a pause on the development of OpenAI and ChatGPT. I think we saw, what was it, a week or two ago, about how a number of executives penned a letter asking for OpenAI to, I think, pause new releases or something for 6 months. And the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, argued against this and said that was not the right way to do things, and more or less pointing out that technology is going to develop as it develops, and this pause is not necessarily going to be sufficient for regulators to know how to handle this technology moving forward, and that basically these things have to be allowed to develop concurrently. So I think that's also an important point to mention.